Welcome to Gear Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris.
I'm Annie.
And this is Brooke.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the Frank Paddle carbon fiber swim paddle. I am super stoked to talk about this. I think they're really cool. We had Fredrik on the show a couple months ago. Awesome episode. We'll link to it in the show notes for people can check it out. But yeah, I'm very curious to hear what the ladies from Swimrun Labs.
It's the hottest thing in Swimrun right now is these carbon fiber paddles.
Yeah. So. And I want to hear from the laboratory. But before that, how are you guys doing? I feel like we haven't chatted with you in a while.
Oh man, spring is here. The water's warming up in Bellingham.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful.
Spring has sprung.
What does that mean, warming up? Is it like 50 now?
It is. Yes. Which is awesome. And in the afternoon on an outgoing tide, it's 55.
Wow.
Really?
Which is toasty.
Like
that's
bath water.
It's like Caribbean.
Yeah. I think so. I've never been to the Caribbean, but I'll trust you on that, Chris.
Well,
it is warm.
Yeah, it is. It's way warmer than that. Sometimes it can be like even in the 70s. It's kind of crazy.
Sometimes it's too warm.
That is too warm.
Yeah.
Spokane lakes are 52. They're even warmer than the ocean right now.
Wow.
And that's with snow melt.
I think our aquatic park is around 57, really.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's time.
It's time to go in.
Yeah. That's just a downright hot tub.
Yeah, we're going in soon. But before we get into talking about carbon fiber swim paddles and me being super stoked on this, does anyone have any new gear they want to mention that they're trying out?
I will be trying Trista This is Trista, her small KORP.
Oh yes,
so you guys are doing a little swap, or she just sent you
swap.
hers.
She's just offered. She kindly reached out and offered to send me her small. Is letting me trial it for a couple months because it's too hot to use in Georgia, where she lives, and it's about the right time to use in the Pacific Northwest.
Perfect.
And it was just so nice of her. So yeah, she's like, before you send it on the swap meet, do you want to see if a small is right for you? And I was like, absolutely. So
awesome.
She also said that she had the water leakage problem, and she feels like it's not a size thing because she the wetsuit is appropriate for her. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to the report back.
I think it's maybe the zipper. Like it's all going in, and anyway.
Because it's vertical and not horizontal.
I don't have no idea.
Back?
No idea. Yeah.
I think it's a collar thing, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Well, let's
have to
get
try.
Daniel Sandback on the show. We can pepper him with questions about it.
We got questions for you.
Yeah, we got a couple cues for you, Dan.
What about you, Chipper?
Mm-hmm.
I have actually been testing out some new hydration products. I've been using Element, LMNT, I believe is how it's...
Yeah, it's very trendy.
It's like a salt.
Just drop all the vowels on any word.
Yeah, I think that was like 2008 though.
Yeah.
Out of style.
Yeah, let me get the exact. But I saw it because our former guest of the show, one Adam Skolnick, did it. He's been testing out some Element. It is LMNT and it's drinkelement.com. They had like a pack that you can try all their flavors. It has similar methodology to what Precision Hydration does with very sodium focus. So each one of these packets has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. They had a bunch of different flavors, including some different ones like jalapeno mango and chocolate.
I can't imagine thinking during a hot race where I want hydration, be like, you know what, I really go great right now?
Some spicy mango.
Oh, I totally disagree. Come on, Chris.
Really?
They do this in Puerto Rico where they have like the mango with the chili.
Yeah,
with
of course.
tahini on it?
That is like so good on a hot day.
What about with a hot, rumbly stomach, though?
Yeah.
We'll have to test it on a hot day.
So I have been drinking this kind of post to sort of replenish my stores during our big hour-long intense swim sessions that Chris and I have been killing each other with.
Is that like a humble brag, or is that like?
I guess I didn't know.
I think there wasn't like a humble part to that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I guess just a full-on brag.
Just a
Like,
full-on
just been
brag.
crushing it at the pool.
We've been slamming yards over here in Marin. But their flavors, I actually say, were pretty good. It is really, really salty. So if you've had precision hydration and you're like, oh, this is good, the element stuff is really salty. And
like it just tastes salty.
It's like they took a salt shaker and they dumped a lot in. I will say I was pleasantly surprised by the chocolate flavor.
Oh, like a salty chocolate?
Salty chocolate. It was
Like
it was
chocolate
delightful.
water?
It's probably my favorite
interesting
flavor. But again, this was me sitting at my desk working and sipping this bottle of salty chocolate water, not out on the race course.
You know what I want you to try, Chipper? I want you to try to take that hydration while you're exerting effort, because there was a company, I think they're still around, SOS Hydration.
Mm-hmm.
There's the same thing. It was super salty, so they would do like, they'd show up at a run club and let people sample it, and
right.
no one liked it. But if you tried it while you were exercising or
Immediately
after,
it a little bit more.
it didn't taste as salty.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've had that
interesting.
experience with super salty hydration mix as well. It's like a be here now thing. Drink it when you are sweating.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I will apply that new knowledge that I have to my future.
And then get
taste
that
tests.
heartburn from that jalapeno.
Habanero
God.
mangoes.
A salty,
heartburn.
spicy
Yeah.
burps.
Although I feel like on like a hot race, I'm not really craving chocolate water either. I mean, doesn't mango water sound a lot nicer with a little...
I liked it. So you could check them out if you want. Drink LMNT.
I can't believe we spent 10 minutes talking about this.
Yeah. Hey, maybe they'll
Really
send
need to
everybody
stop
something.
Yeah. Right. Look us up.
I'm going to try it for sure.
What other...
So Will Watt from Above Below,
yes,
they sent us a ruck raft, which if people don't know what this is, it's essentially like
it's for cross country swimming.
Yeah, it's for the swim run adventurer and everyone, where it's a flotation device that comes with a dry bag that attaches precisely. It's brightly colored so people can see it in the water. Got the high vis going. It's made from British military intelligence materials kind of stuff. Definitely military grade, I would say. Yeah, so we've been chatting with them on social media and stuff, and they sent us one to check out. So we're going to be doing a full review on that one soon. But yeah, Will, people at Above Below, thank you guys so much for sending that out.
Yeah,
we're really stoked to check it out.
Really awesome piece of kit. Give it a look.
Are you guys planning an epic cross country swim run to go with it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what epic is, but
we're planning a swim run in the future. Yes.
Yeah, I think once we start going to Lake Sonoma, which is pretty imminent here, in the next few weeks.
Yep,
we're gonna start testing all kinds of stuff out there because it's just
you should
it's a good way to
with
test
like
it.
A big old picnic and swim across the lake, and then have a picnic with your family. Maybe
Sounds
even
lovely.
put one of your kids in it.
Put a kid in there. Yeah, I feel like it doesn't even have to be epic. Just like use it for
what it's
life.
Yeah, it's not completely rafty because
you blow it up yourself. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll link to it. It's awesome. They sell out real quick, so if you see it and you're just before our review, if you're just like, oh, this is I'm really curious about, just snag it because it's going to sell out. They literally can't keep these in stock, but really stoked to try that. Thank you, Will. How about we move on to Untethered Thoughts, our newest segment that's taking our small corner of the internet by storm. So we actually got a message from Marcus Barton, the one and only.
The Marcus Barton.
Mr. 2020 Low Tide Boy himself. And it kind of blew my mind, and we were chatting about it before we started recording, and everyone kind of had the same thing. So I stopped the conversation, be like, we got to get this
Save
on.
it for the show.
Save it for the show. His untethered thought was the zipper in the back isn't for you, it's for your partner. So you shouldn't worry about having to access your own zipper, because essentially what you should do is that's the pocket that your partner uses. So you carry their hydration and they carry yours. So then it's easy for them to access it just from behind you.
Which is also
Super
such
smart.
a beautiful demonstration or beautiful metaphor for the partnership of Swimrun.
Absolutely.
Which is, I feel like there's like wise parables about this, where it's like we feed ourselves, or like we get fed by feeding
the ones around us. You know, it's like that thing of like everyone has a really long spoon and they can't fit it in their own mouth. But if you just use your long spoon to feed the person across the table, everyone gets fed. It's like, I love it. It's very elegant.
That's well put. I don't think so.
Yep, just dropping the poetic
That's Annie's
metaphors for partnership over here.
Do you have a tissue? Because
wait, let me dab your eyes for you, Chris. Don't dab your own eyes.
Who's
dabbing
cutting
them
onions?
right now. I'm dabbing his eyes.
Who is cutting onions right now?
Literally left us all speechless. That was amazing.
I think
I can do that sometimes.
So that's a very tactical and practical use of said vertical zipping pocket. Honestly, that's not a bad strategy to employ for any pocket.
Right?
Great call, Brooke.
Yeah, I think just the strategy is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I still prefer my strategy, which it's since been retired, where I just have Chipper carry all my shit.
The muling strategy.
To me, that's still number one.
I feel like I could come up with a metaphor for that.
Be funny. Yeah. So thank you, Marcus, for sending that our way. I think, it really was eye opening, and as you know, as Annie said, is definitely a great metaphor for the sport as a whole. So thank you for that, and way to keep coming up with great ideas.
If you have your own untethered thoughts, send those over to us, lowtideboys with a Z @gmail.com.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss.
Yeah. And we have one tethered thought. So we want to remind everyone of the Swimrun swap meet on Facebook.
You got Swimrun gear that you're looking to swap, sell, rent, give. Head on over to Facebook. Just search Swimrun swap meet. There is a brief questionnaire to verify your authenticity as a human. And then we'll let you in. So there's some shoes on there. There's some old kit. There's a couple wetsuits going to be floating around soon enough. So head on over there if you are looking for gear for the season and you don't want to shell out full coinage for the retail suggested MSRP. Go to Swimrun Swap Meet, snag yourself something for cheap.
Yeah, or free.
Or free.
The cheapest.
I don't think we can hold anyone back any longer. We have to get to the
Frank
Paddle. You can't hold me back any longer.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about carbon fiber swim paddles. We're talking about essentially the originator, now been copied by a couple companies, of coming up with some pretty amazing paddles that are made by hand.
Yes. So frankpaddle.com is where you go to score these. They come in at $1,249 kroner, I believe, which is the equivalent of $150 depending on exchange rates and all that good stuff. A Swimrun model size large weighs in at a scant. The medium's coming in at 57 grams. Brooke is, as we're speaking, going to weigh the large. I would guess then the large is
this just one paddle that we're weighing?
Yeah.
Single paddle.
This is how they do it in the labs. They're not guessing. They're like, let me just.
I'm at my
they have their lab
right
coats
now.
on right now.
A single paddle is
actually
58
would be really
grams.
funny.
58. Okay, so only 1 gram more for large. That's impressive. I wonder. Let's share a little dimensions. How much bigger is the large?
Oh, I have the dimensions here actually on the website. The large is 23.5 centimeters long, and it comes in at 20.5 centimeters width, and it is fairly thin. We don't have a measurement on that. Maybe a millimeter
thin.
or two. I think we're fine there.
Yeah, it's like 2 millimeters.
2 millimeters or so. And yes, they come in all sorts of sizes, all the way from small to extra large. And I think
extra small.
Well, and here's the thing about Frank Paddle and Fredrik. Like, he'll make these. So if you have some weird hands, some like giant.
Or if you want some trash can?
If you want trash, I mean, these are made by hand. So you could actually send them like a hand print, and you'll be like, oh, I want it, 10 centimeters, whatever. And they'll just do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
like if you have a super long thumb.
Yeah.
It could be.
Or you got 2 thumbs.
2 thumbs or 6 fingers or something like,
That's impressive.
Yeah. So when we chatted with Fredrik, this was back in episode 50 of the show. I mean, the story of Frank Paddles is pretty cool. The fact he went all in on this thing, thought it was a great idea, started making his own carbon fiber paddles, and they sell out right away.
Instantly.
So We've also, before we even got to try them, our friends of the show, Team Max Mockerman, were telling us that they think the future of swimrun is carbon fiber swim paddles, and all the pros and all the elites will be using them in the coming years or whatever. I must say, after trying them, I agree.
Ooh.
I agree.
Wow, you're giving us your verdict.
Wowzers.
Well, no, this is all foreshadowing, I think, still.
What's the opposite of burying the lead?
Because
throwing it in your face.
Because
slapping it with a Frank paddle. Being Frank.
Slapping you in the face with carbon fiber. But yeah, I think what we should really be talking about is performance, right? They're cool, they're light, there's great story. It's hard not to want to root for, Fredrik and Frank Paddle, but it all comes down to performance.
But do they work? Do they perform? Do they work? So, I guess the swim's a good place to start. Now, I never had a swim paddle that I thought, wow, this is so heavy, I wish there was a way to make it lighter. But when I got these Frank paddles, I was blown away by how light they were. It made the other, like a regular paddle, seem like a cinder block.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, regular paddles were super heavy.
Exactly. It was the craziest.
Yeah, I totally agree. The first recovery stroke I took, I was like, what? Is my arm like floating up to the sky? Like it was
like some
it was pretty remarkable. It was like a remarkable difference for, like you said, not really feeling like paddles are weighing you down.
And just to put some numbers behind that difference of weight.
Oh yes, thank you.
So the Frank paddle, so I tested the medium, which comes out at 57 grams. My typical Synergy size small paddles are 59 grams. So very close in weight, actually, but much smaller. And then a comparably sized Roka paddle, which like a Roka large paddle, compared to the Frank paddle is, oh no, I'm switching units. Oh dear. Okay, going to ounces. Sorry.
Okay, we'll do a quick
empirical unit switch. So Frank paddle's 2 ounces, and the same size Roka paddle is 3.1 ounces. So 1 ounce difference.
But
yeah, exactly. 30% more weight.
That's 88 grams, pretty much. 3.1 ounces is 88 grams ish.
Okay, so back to what you were saying. Now that we have the math.
Yeah. Now, yeah. What do we?
I mean, so
it's hard to describe.
I mean, so we tested them all in the water, in varying degrees, right? So why don't we just talk about how those tests went?
Yeah,
that's what everyone wants to know, anyway.
Yeah, they do.
So I did a few time trials with these. I've been swimming with them for about a couple weeks, and I have Chip was kind enough to give me his large paddles. So they're quite big compared to my little Synergy paddles. So that's a huge difference for me, just in terms of getting used to swimming with really large paddles. I would be so I want to make that as like an upfront caveat. So some of my feedback might just be due to a size issue. I think it would be really awesome to try the small paddles.
Small is kind of the size you normally would choose, Brooke?
Yeah, I kind of like them the size just a little bit bigger than my hand, I think. And I'll tell you why. And this could go back to kind of the idea that we talked about in an earlier show about big, are paddles just going to get bigger, bigger, bigger? Or is there like kind of a maxing out point where they're so big that it's not really efficient anymore for the sport? Mm-hmm. And so for these, like swimming, I did some time trials. I noticed like my stroke rate was significantly slower because of the size, but my speed on I did 2100s with the Frank paddles and 2100s with my Synergy paddles. And I was 1 to 2 seconds faster per 100 with the Frank paddles. And so then I wanted to kind of test it over like a longer continuous distance. So I did a mile swim with my regular paddles and then a mile swim with the Frank paddle.
1650?
Yeah, 1650. And I was, let's see, I did 2208 with my Frank paddles and 2350 with the regular paddles. So
wow,
almost 2 minutes.
It cut off like almost 2 minutes off of the mile.
Damn.
Interesting.
I will say though, my shoulder fatigue, like, so then I was trying to like rate my rate of perceived effort, so my cardiovascular effort with the Frank paddles, I say, was like at 70%, 65 to 70%. Like I did not feel like I was cardiovascularly working that hard because my stroke rate was so slow. And then with the regular paddles, I was trying to do like an 80 to 85. But my shoulder fatigue with the Frank paddles was like probably like a 8 out of 10. This is what I wrote after the swim, 8 out of 10, where my shoulder fatigue with my regular paddles was like 5 out of 10.
How much do you think that might just be due from not used to using paddles that big?
I think that could play. Yeah, no, I think that could definitely play a role. I did do the mile after I'd done a bunch of like a week or so of different 100s and 250s and stuff with the Frank paddles. So I was a little used to them, but I think it raises like an interesting like question about
like a training question about like what system do you want to train?
Well, either what system do you want to train, or like also what kind of athlete are you? Like, are you, is your cardiovascular endurance, like your VO2 max, just like through the roof? Then, the regular and your shoulders aren't very strong, then the regular paddles might be more beneficial for you because you're not going to max out, with the cardio on the cardio part. But do you have like killer shoulder endurance and power? But maybe it would benefit you to take some cardio rest during the swim and not be like pushing it at that 85% threshold, then maybe the Frank paddles would be better for you. So I think it could kind of go either way.
Or like thinking about gaining a training edge if you feel like you're pushing the pointy end of sharp and your performance has plateaued. For example, if you're that VO2 max athlete where you just have amazing cardiovascular endurance, but you can't make your swimming faster for whatever reason, maybe try focusing some strength work on your shoulders and seeing what these paddles can do for you. And actually larger paddles. I think because any larger paddle would do this, but this is an interesting moment of, But
totally. I thought of you, Annie, actually. I was like, this would probably be way too much for you. But that's because it's a bigger paddle. Again, now we're talking about like size versus the actual. But there is an element to the design of this paddle that I think contributes to that. And that's the very few holes.
Yes.
And no flexibility. So it feels just like a solid.
It's
like
stiff.
Your hand is
fully
locked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like your wrist is just kind of locked.
You are like pushing every molecule of water.
Yeah.
You're moving as much water as possible.
Yeah. Which is an awesome feeling,
Yeah.
Yeah. When you get going, if you got a pull buoy in, which is one of the ways I tested it. I mean, I was just like,
you feel like you're in a rocket ship.
Like the wind was blowing through my hair in the water or something.
Yeah.
Your hair always looks good in the water. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
And Chris, are these about the same size as the paddles that you were using before?
So they're a little bit bigger. So so I took the larges and Chipper took the mediums, and we switched off I think once to try them, but I mean I was fine with the larges because when I trained for Catalina, I was using large Roca paddles, which were about the same size. And then I went down to the mediums after our great conversations that we had on our swim paddle episode. And just been using those since. So it wasn't that big of a difference for me to use the larger paddles.
So what did you notice in terms of the difference in just how your shoulders felt or?
Yeah. So I think if I'm going to say, I'm have to humble brag a little bit. So I've been doing a lot of work in the pool. So my times in the pool just in general have been dropping a lot. So it's hard for me. I don't know how much of testing these paddles is because of just the paddles being awesome or just me actually dedicating a lot of time in the pool. If you know what I mean?
Or you being awesome? Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, basically is what I was trying to say. Thank you for saying it for me. But
partner, good partner.
Chris is so awesome.
But yeah, I noticed a significant, the stiffness, as Chipper mentioned, the lightness in just the recovery phase. It just felt like you weren't wearing a paddle at all. And yeah, I was about 5 seconds per 100 faster than I was with the medium Roca paddles.
Whoa.
So that's not insignificant. It's not insignificant at all. I mean, and my shoulders are fine because I've been working.
You have your You're trained up for that size of paddle.
Yeah, I was kind of sort of trained up for it, so I didn't have any shoulder fatigue or anything. I did notice when I first started using them, it was a little bit harder to, through the pull phase, just to kind of get used to that, because it's almost impossible not to slow up a little bit, just because the paddles are so, holeless, as we just mentioned.
Unholy.
But yeah, once I was in the groove, and I did a couple 500s where with the arc keel pull buoy, just to kind of try to simulate what it would be like with an ankle strap as well. And yeah, over the 500, like it was kind of ridiculous. I was about 30 seconds faster using the Frank paddles than I was with the Rokas.
Wow, that's significant.
It's a pretty big savings.
You should try like well, I guess 500 is pretty long, but I was gonna say like a mile or something in each. I'd just be curious, like if I wish I had like the small size that was like my
the parity to your normal size that
just so I could see, like, is it really my shoulders are fatigued because the paddle's so much bigger, but or is there an element of, because the paddle just being really solid and not having any give, that also contributes to that. But but overall, I thought they were like they felt great in the water. Like it felt like you had a different engine, to your sport.
They move water real well.
Yeah. Annie, what about your testing?
So I tested them in the pool myself, but I was also like pretty strongly aware of the fact that my testing was not apples to apples because of size. Just because same as Brooke, I like a paddle that's pretty much just a tad bigger than my hand. So what I did was, I swam with them for a couple weeks and just kind of tried to integrate them and get used to them, and did 100s testing and 500s testing. And consistently on the 100s, I was 5 seconds faster with the Frank paddle than the Synergy paddle.
Wow,
I know there's actually something that can make me faster.
That's huge.
But check this out. So then I'm like, well, so what happened was, because I'm not trained up to big paddles, and I do wonder, is this because it's a bigger paddle or because it's a Frank paddle that's super light? Or that's just really good at moving water, because that was like, in terms of subjective report of feel, like, I tested it, and then I also had another expert tester test it, and we both used like the same word to describe the feeling of using this paddle, which was, it moves water with aplomb. Like it is really water.
And Fredrik, if you're listening, feel free to put that on your website.
There's your quote for your website.
You can have that one for free, Fredrik.
Yep.
I don't think they need to. They're like sold out.
Yeah,
that's true. They don't need marketing.
They need any help marketing.
No.
Yeah. So my 100 time was 5 seconds faster with the Frank, but then in the 500, which by basic math should have been 25 seconds faster, was only 10 seconds faster.
Oh, interesting.
With the Frank, which to me is like, that kind of gave me the heads up that me testing this paddle from a performance and speed perspective isn't necessarily going to get the data that we're looking for, because I'm just not used to a big paddle, because I got super tired.
Annie, I wonder if you would have sort of been used to those types of paddles and kind of had like the shoulder strength kind of built up for it, if you'd have had a similar outcome than I have, because
it sounds like you were able to maintain that.
Exactly. Like I felt like I got into like a groove of it, and then was able to kind of hold it.
Yeah. So
Chris, I would say like I feel that same way. Like I got into a groove, but it was a slow groove.
It was a slow groove. It was,
and it requires like a long glide to finish your stroke. And I was like, I wonder how this would do in chop, where you need to kind of have a quicker.
Yeah.
That's where I think your smaller size would come in real handy, as mentioned, as we talked about. If you if you want to catch up all the reference.
After Annie and I talked about this, like after we put our small paddles on, after using the Frank paddles, it felt like we were swimming with fists. It was like we couldn't grab any water.
Yeah.
Like we were just windmilling through the pool.
Yeah, and I it sounds like I did the least amount of testing in this whole group, which probably isn't a surprise to anybody listening. But I mean, I'm going to echo everyone's thoughts here. Is that I feel like my stroke, when I do faster turnover, that really gets the cardio pumping, and that's when I feel like, from a swimming perspective, I feel less comfortable there. I'm rather like, I think
you want to be in zone 2.
I would rather be ripping and be, I think Matt Dixon once said from Purple Patch, be like really violent underwater, where you're just ripping that water back on the pull phase. And and these really, it's like you're driving, if you were used to driving a Honda Civic, this is like a Lamborghini, and you're just like taking off. Like it's a game changer in terms of how stiff they are and how much water that they are moving, and the sort of perceived, or it's not perceived, but the how light it is something that I think, I don't know if maybe you'll just get used to that over, if you use them for a season, it might kind of wear off, but it seems like you would have less fatigue. And this is, Fredrik talked about this in our interview with him about, imagine how many miles you're running and you have 10 or 20 less grams over every mile. That's a lot in the totality of a race to carry around with you or to move. So I know, we're kind of getting in very thin type things, but I'm curious. I actually really loved the enclosure system that they had on the paddle. They have a grid of 3 by 5 or 5 dots across, 3 holes down. So 15 grid there, a 3 by 5 grid for moving your finger hole around.
Yeah, and the cord wasn't like
a paracord.
It was paracord, so it definitely felt like it'd be a little bit harder to tear during a race. And the way
that's what I was wondering.
I loved that attachment system.
Yeah,
I thought
I'm actually switching my Rokas to have that as well.
Wait, you guys are switching it to this paracord?
Yeah.
I hated the attachment system.
Oh,
that was actually
okay.
my one negative thing. So Chip, I thought you would actually put this on here because on their website they just show paddle. Well,
yeah.
Oh, right.
They just show paddle, so I didn't know if the attachment comes with it. And then they're on their main page, they show that solid like rubber that's used actually on my Synergy paddles, which I love, on their homepage.
Right, just a normal tube.
Yeah, the solid tube.
Yeah.
So that's not, it comes with the paracord.
Yes.
Okay. I did not like the paracord. I thought it was like kind of uncomfortable, like chafy on my finger, on my little middle finger. I know they put this little they put a little plastic buffer,
like a finger guard.
Yeah, but I still felt it was uncomfortable. And then on my wrist, I thought like putting these on and taking them off throughout a race. I just didn't like the feel of it as much as my.
You can't slide it on with it.
And it doesn't have as much like rubbery give as the solid tubing does. So I probably would replace that with the solid tubing because I love my tubing.
Interesting. I might do one of each just to try it out because I'm the type of person that before we go in for the swim, I like to give it a yank with my teeth just to really cinch the fingers and the wrist down.
Oh, yeah.
To like make sure we're, just tighten that belt and let's go kind of thing. And I felt that the way that these were, the attachment system kind of, I wasn't able to do that. Yeah, it's adjustable and it's very flexible, but for grabbing it with your teeth and pulling on it, it didn't seem to work very well. So maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but if you are someone who adjusts your strapping, I guess, then this would be a good system. For me, I just leave it at a certain, not too tight, not too loose to kind of pop in, pop out.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're if you have a paddle where you, for some reason, don't trust your paddle straps, which, I mean, I've witnessed and experienced like the little rubber paddle or the rubber straps working themselves loose from holes, like and being hard to adjust and working themselves loose during a swim. Like I know people who've had those straps break. Like it seems like the straps are not going to break and they're not going to work themselves loose. So when it comes to like trusting that your setup is bomber, this is very trustworthy.
Yeah. I guess in transition, it could add just another little thing that you got to sort out if you're going to be, cinching things and doing stuff like that rather than not having to think about it. But that's what practice is
But
for.
I think, anything, like with anything new, if you just practice it, just like a new mount system for your pull buoy, this is just sort of like a new mount system for your paddle. So you're just going to want to work to where you're comfortable with that.
Well, let's keep talking about this because we should talk about transitions. And it sounds like we're already jumped into it talking about the straps. But one thing that I was really concerned about when I first picked these things up was, are these things durable? Like, are these things, are you just going to crack these things?
I have heart palpitations about them. They feel super fragile. I'm sorry, can I pull this train back to the swim? Because I want to share the feedback of another tester.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Our buddy Caleb, who is basically the opposite of me in terms of how he swims and his size. So the Frank paddles that I had are comparable to the size that he typically swims with. He is training completely in open water right now. So he does long open water swims multiple times a week. And he's like a born and bred swimmer, 100%. Yeah. So he was kind enough to try these paddles out and he gave us some awesome feedback, super specific stuff. Nice. He used them for an open water swim that he does every week. And that is a swim around a peninsula. So he had times when he was going into the current. He had times when he was going with the current. He had encountered a little bit of chop, and he was also able to compare his time over a 2,800 meter swim.
I feel like this guy needs to get a Low Tide Boys sticker.
I think so, definitely. Yeah. Caleb, you've got a sticker coming.
Thanks, Caleb.
Yeah, definitely. So what he noted was his time for that swim when he used the Frank paddles was 2 minutes faster for 2,800 meter. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. It's 2,700.
I have a question, though. Does Caleb swim with paddles when he does his swim normally?
So he used the same. Oh, good question, Chris. Let me just reference what he wrote to me. Okay, so the time we're comparing to is with no paddles, but with towing his partner. Okay. So he was 2 minutes faster with the Frank paddles and in line. And so he is not training with paddles at this point in the season in the open water, but he has in the past. And he said, so that is in line with some of his fastest swims that he's done with paddles, towing his partner. And what he said was like, these things move water pretty darn well. Like, it's just a powerful feeling. He agrees with all of us on that. What he actually said, which I thought was an interesting perspective, was after the 2,700 meters, he said the last few hundred meters, maybe, let's see, where did he write this? Towards the end, I think the last quarter of the swim, he said felt a little bit joyless because he's used to feeling water on his hands. It's like they're so effective at power transfer from your hand to the water that it's like all about the feel of the paddle, of this like super rigid, powerful paddle, but you lose the feel of the water. So for him, that was like that was an interesting thing to hear.
I kind of get that.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Like it almost feels like you're swimming with gloves or,
right. Yeah.
Or like when you're swimming with fins, when you swim with fins, you're just well, this isn't
fins.
real.
Yeah. Like fins for the hands. And you don't get as much feel for the water. I can appreciate that.
The other thing Caleb really mentioned a number of times, which I'll mention as well, which I just mentioned, was, oh my gosh, they're so nerve-wracking. You feel like they're really, really fragile. So he was like pretty hesitant to swim aggressively when he was around rocks and obstacles and things he could potentially hit the paddle on. And I'm with him on that.
So we asked Fredrik, because when we got them, I think you, Chipper, you were like, are we going to break these?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you just
read I have it up right here on cue. I said, how fragile are they? Do we need to baby them, or are they decently durable? And this is a quote from Mr. Frank Paddle, Fredrik himself. You definitely don't have to baby them. Climbing on sharp rocks with them on your hands will wear them out eventually, of course, but they can take quite a beating. Sharp, pointy stuff is the enemy of carbon. I used some Gorilla Glue clear protective tape on some of the early prototypes on the bottom side, and it was very protective, but you don't need to do that. Just put them on your hands, go hard, and enjoy.
Bold,
yeah, I mean,
So-
we all have fear, but nobody has any testimonials of a broken paddle.
It
Well,
doesn't.
Chip, I actually tested the durability of your paddle, or maybe Chris, it's yours,
Chris's,
the
so-
large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
those are mine.
So
Run a truck over
I
it?
put it in our driveway and I just drove over it in my car, and I actually did break the paddle.
That would be.
That sounds like it would hurt your hand too.
It did. I also broke my hand.
Yeah, did you take your hand out of it first?
No, I think isn't that part of like not just lightweight, but also part of why we're using carbon fiber here
Yeah. No, that's
because of the durability.
that's
Like,
the whole point. Yeah, I mean, Sharpie stuff can cut into the weave if it's really sharp. I kind of messed around a little bit in the pool. I mean, I'm not a flip turn champion or anything, so I was just when I was wearing them and I would do like the turn a
Yeah,
couple times, I would just try to bang it against the thing
Just to
Me
see
too.
what would happen.
just to see. Yeah, and it
nothing
was
bad happened.
yeah, nothing bad happened. I was just
Yeah.
making a lot
Chip,
of noise.
I did inspect for damage, and I wish I had inspected when I opened your package of your paddle.
Oh,
There
no.
is a little tiny chip in the tip.
If it was,
Tiny
it's like a
was
car
probably
rental.
there.
If it wasn't circled when you took the car, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
charge you for
then I
that.
must
that's just how Chip signs his name. It's a little
This is
chip
Chip's
and
paddle.
everything.
Chip and
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
next
no, I
level.
mean, I think, hey, these things are meant to be used, and if part of having these is going to create a big mental block or some sort of reserve feeling when you're
Oh, yeah.
racing,
yeah.
maybe you don't.
Yeah,
You know.
Actually,
Well said.
I have an analogy.
Let's hear it.
So when I was deep into triathlon, at some point, the only thing left to get is a really fancy wetsuit.
$20,000 bike.
Well, we're already
Yeah,
beyond
we already
that.
had
Oh.
I never
Not
had an awesome.
20,000,
I never had an awesome bike, but yeah. So I got a real like a $1,200 wetsuit, and I basically the first 2 years I had it, I used it like 3 times only in racing because
You
I
were
was
so
so
scared, yeah.
afraid. I would baby that thing, all this stuff, and then I had this epiphany like I should just use this thing, and I started like training with it and stuff like that, and held up fine.
Yeah.
It's like, and I was so glad I started actually using this thing that I was
Yeah,
scared
and
of.
you're like getting the price of it per use goes down. You know,
Exactly.
so it's like
better scale of
Yeah.
economics.
Yeah.
There. Nice. Do we need to comment on any run stuff with
I mean, it
this?
seemed like the one issue in the run would be they're so light you might drop them and not even
and not notice.
realize. So
you'd hear it.
or
yeah,
feel
right.
like
Yeah.
That's a good
Hear
point.
it.
yeah, that's true. They're loud. Or if you are prone to that mental anxiety around, like, am I going to ruin this super nice piece of kit? Like Caleb and I talked about this as well, where like I have definitely eaten shit running on the
Mhm.
trails. And if the first thought in my mind when I'm eating shit is like, oh my God, am I going to crack my $150 paddle?
Or crack my skull.
Or
Yeah.
no, but if
Like,
my
not
first
break
thought
your
is about my
fall.
paddle, not my skull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you break your shoulder because you don't want to put your hand that has the paddle.
Yeah,
on
like
it
you
down.
don't put your hand out and so
Yeah.
you land on your head.
But that, again, it goes back to what you guys were saying, which I think is a good way of summing it up. If you're prone to that type of anxiety, it's probably not the paddle for you.
right.
Yeah. Well,
And for like for me, it's like trusting that my gear is not going to fail is priceless. And in this case, it's not only priceless, but it's also $140 less than the cost of a Frank paddle. So for
Yeah.
me,
yeah. Okay. Are we?
Can I say one thing about the look of them?
Please.
oh yeah.
So I've been swimming next to this guy. He's like in his 70s. His name's Larry.
Hi, Larry.
For
You want a sticker,
over a
Larry?
couple years now. And he's never said a single word to me.
Except
he's
his name.
No, our coach says his
Oh,
name.
gotcha.
So the only way you know his name is because someone yelled it at
That's
him.
how I know his name. Oh, which by the way, people at the pool know me as that crazy girl that does Swimrun, which I'm super stoked about.
I mean, they're not wrong.
I know.
They're not wrong.
Where are they wrong?
But anyways, so I'm swimming this morning before this gear talk, and I had the Frank paddles with me, and Larry's a beautiful swimmer, like super long strokes. I mean, I think he takes like maybe 6 strokes before he gets down to the other end of the pool, like before me.
Like a stingray.
Really, yeah. He's got really long arms, long legs. And he just looks at me and he says, "What you got there?"
Whoa, Larry.
And I was like, whoa, it took me totally off guard. And I was like, oh my gosh, don't mess this up, Brooke. And then I just like dove into this thing. I'm like, this is a Frank paddle. It's made of carbon fiber. It costs like $130, but it'll make you go really fast. And then he asked to try them. And we switched paddles for a little bit.
They're definitely sexy. They're sexy in like an 80s windsurfer kind of.
What did Larry think of them?
What did Larry think of them? So he did like I think a couple 200s or something, and then came back and took them off. And I was like, "What'd you think?" And he's like, "I don't like the straps." Okay. That's literally what he said about the straps. But no, he thought that they felt like same thing. He was like, they just feel like really solid. He's like, they have no flexibility to them. But he's very like deadpan. He didn't seem impressed or like criticizing. He was just like
neutral on the subject.
Like matter of
solid.
fact.
Man, Brooke,
no flexibility.
Can you manifest having Larry test everything else that we ever test moving forward?
I can try.
New segment.
He hasn't asked about my Mondo pull buoys yet.
Good.
He likes to pull too.
Adequate.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well,
should we go into a pool buoy rankings?
Yeah, we heard what Larry's thoughts were, so let's hear what everyone else ranks these pool buoy wise. I'll go first.
I need a moment.
I'll go first. Now, this is another thing. This is going to be, let me get my soapbox out here. This is kind of like the, I don't think this paddle will be your all the time paddle. You might practice in something else, but I am going to give it a 4 pull buoy rating. I think clearly from the testing that we've heard here, they're going to make you faster. You get maybe a little, mental edge, whether it be a placebo effect or not, that you do just feel like a underwater torpedo with these things on. When you're swimming, they're extra light. They look cool. They're made of carbon fiber, and it's the hottest rage in Swimrun right now. So 4 pull buoys from Chip.
How about you?
And I'll be racing in them.
Probably. Yeah, if
I can get them back.
I also give them 4 pull buoys. And Caleb also gives them 4 pulley buoys.
Larry also gives them 4. No,
I agree. There is no denying that there's tech in these paddles that is helpful because it even made me faster. And I dock a full point for cost because
fair.
They are really spendy. Like if you hit a sale, you can get a wetsuit for the price of these paddles.
Yep.
And then I had to ask myself, like, what would I rate my Synergy paddles? Because you can get Synergy paddles for like $8. And I think I would rate my Synergy paddles a 3.5 or a 4. And so it's sort of like, yeah, I don't know why I added that in. Sorry, guys.
I think it's helpful.
I think it's good context to have.
Kind of calibrates the rating.
And I guess it probably would be helpful. I've used the Arc paddles. I've used the Roka paddles. And by far, these are my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I was feeling like I wanted to go fast and I was trained up for the right size paddle, I would choose the Frank paddles. But I think that there's a pretty significant barrier to having the privilege of choosing the Frank paddles. And for me, that's worth docking a full pull buoy. And then also just throwing out there, like, I do challenge the statement that the future of swimrun is carbon fiber paddles, because I feel like the ethos of swimrun is it's sort of like the every person's sport with lower barriers to entry than something like triathlon, where it's just it is that arms race of like lightest, most gram shaving gear. And these paddles are definitely more in the category of like, yep, if you can afford to do this, do it. But that's only for some people.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're gonna make or break your race. You know, that the extra grams you carry in a paddle when you're running is gonna make or break your race. I don't doubt that the top athletes of swim run will probably be using these.
Oh, yeah. Like if you wake up in the morning and you ask yourself, should I take the Synergy paddles or the Frank paddles? I want to set a record. Take the Frank paddles.
I want to set a record today.
Yeah.
FKT in the pool.
Right. Okay. Yep. 4 pull buoys.
Nice. Chris?
Well, I'm going to give it 4.5 pull buoys. I would give it 5, but for the cost. I mean, I echoing what everyone said, I think these things are amazing. Just super stoked. I think if swimming fast is something that was always kind of out of reach for you, and this gives you an advantage, I think what it reminds me of are the when Nike started coming out with the Next Percents, those carbon fiber plated shoes, where all of a sudden all the marathon records dropped by like 8 minutes. I think it's that type of game changer. I think if you want an extra edge, whether you're fast or slow, I think these paddles will deliver if you're trained up for them and are using them,
good statement,
correctly. I do agree with you, Annie, that this does get into sort of the arms race of things in terms of gear. And while the price is prohibitive, I mean, I think it's a great premium option to have out there. I mean, some of the best suits are running now. I mean, how much is the Uta? Like $720 or something?
$700, $800.
So I think the great thing about the sport is that there are options for everyone. Like, yes, you're not gonna win a race by having these
alone.
And a Synergy paddle for $8 to $10 could just do the trick. So I think like anything, there's budget options and also premium, full spec options. But yeah, I thought these things were amazing. Like first 100 I did, I think I was smiling while I was swimming. I thought they were so cool.
We both used them for 100 and we're like, oh my God, these are crazy.
It's like, let me try yours.
Yeah.
So these things were great.
4.5 from Chris.
Yeah.
Over to you, Brooke.
So I'm gonna give a rating for the ones I tested, and then what I think my rating would be if I had my right size.
Okay.
So I think for the ones I tested, because I tested a large, and I tend to swim with a smaller paddle, I give them a 4. And then for the ones that maybe a small, I think it would be a 4.5. I love, like you said, the kind of smile on your face. I do like the feel of the power you get. Like it just feels like you're being more efficient with every stroke. I'm still kind of hesitant, kind of thinking about Caleb's remark about feeling the water, because I totally understand what he's saying.
Which I think would only come into play on a longer swim.
Yeah. But I love feeling the water too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're lightweight. Yeah, they're durable. My docking of 1/2 to 1 pull buoy is, I don't like the strapping, but that's changeable. And also the price. But I think you're right, Chris. Like there is a range of gear options for just about every type of gear in swimrun. I mean, you can like make your own Mondo pull buoy,
right?
If
yeah,
you
a couple
want,
of Coca-Cola bottles,
$4.99 pull buoys. Yeah. So I don't think these are necessarily a barrier to doing swimrun. But I also hear what Annie's saying. Like it does remind me a little bit of like a kind of a triathlon type mentality of like, how are we going to evolve the gear to evolve the athlete, or to evolve performance?
To evolve the performance.
Performance, yeah. And I like the idea of swimrun just like, being about
where you can't buy speed.
Yeah, being about the like there's that partnership component that I feel like is such a huge factor in your performance, and which is why I love about it, because it's so much more human, than object. But I think they're awesome. I mean, they're I would say they're the nicest paddles I've ever swum with and worn, and it's definitely a new deal swimming with them. So if you haven't tried them and you have the cash laying around and they ever stock up again, they would be awesome for you to try.
Yeah, I think
that's
a good point to mention.
Argument.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
No,
Sorry.
Go for it. I think we're going to say the same thing. So go for it.
It's just like, it's the constant debate of evolving technology where like when tech is usually introduced, it's usually pretty pricey. It's not available to everybody. It really changes the playing field. I mean, me being down on tech is kind of like, you know, I must admit, I still ride a bicycle with stone wheels and use a feather as a pen. Like, no, I don't. I use an actual pen and I ride a bike with spokes in the wheels. It's just time will hopefully make this the playing field that all people have access to.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's arrange getting these back to the Low Tide Boys. So we
wait a minute. I need to train myself up for them.
That was never in the deal, and I think I lost your address.
Just send one back.
Lost my address. It's like, wait, who is this? Oh, I'm on the wrong Zoom call.
Wait, yeah. What call am I on right now? Gotta go. Bye.
Well,
it'll probably be 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before you guys get them back, because I need to get my shoulders stronger.
It's
with
like
these
it's just like they're getting shipped from Sweden back to us then. 6 to 8 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Did I not tell you at the beginning of this call that I'm actually calling from Sweden?
I would love to give them back to you in
it's like
person at Orcas Island. So at Orcas Race. So
see you in October.
Oh, no. I can't wait that long. Frank, help us out.
Yeah.
We need a new order. We're going to place a new order. Well,
funny.
So if you have any interest, if your interest is peaked in paddles or Frank paddles, go over to the lowtideboys.com and check out the show notes there. We also have a great episode of Gear Talk with the same friendly voices that you hear here, plus John Stevens' voice as he drops some serious wisdom bombs on us on paddles, paddle size, stroke rate, open water paddle. I mean, he really dropped some knowledge on everybody there, so that was really great. And yeah, check out Frank Paddle and
check out swimrunlabs.com.
Labs, of course.
If you actually want to learn something. And yeah, thank you guys for being on.
Pleasure as always.
Swimrun Swap Meet. Better not see any Frank paddles on there.
They'll just get swooped.
$40. I'm like, I'll trade these paddles for an Arc Corpse, for an Arc Uto.
Nice.
All right, bye.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Gear Talk with the Swimrun Labs. You can learn more about all things swimrun at swimrunlabs.com.
If you have any questions or requests for us to review on the show, send us an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this and your other podcast, and leave a review if you're so inclined.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course Annie and Brooke for sharing their wealth of knowledge with us.
We'd like to give a huge shout out to our wives for letting us do this sort of stuff. And until next time, be sure to go out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
And then a run.
Might as well throw another swim on there.
And a run.
And then just keep going.
Okay. Don't stop. Won't stop.
Can't stop.